We won a game, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. We still know... God, that smells horrible. We still know how to win. Hi, I am Weston. I love talking about the Astros, and I am here to recap Game 18 of the regular season. Astros over the Angels 8-2. Should have been 8-0. I don't care. They can still win games. Oh my gosh. Man, I know it sounds strange being the 18th game of the year, but with the recent track record of being 1-9 over the last 10 and being blown out in some of the games the way we have against sort of meager opponents, like getting swept by the Tigers, losing 2 out of the 3 against the Mariners in Seattle, and then a 2-game sweep at the hands of the Rockies, you really had the feeling going into this game, which I know is, not even 3 weeks into the season. I think this is exactly 3 weeks from opening day, actually. This was almost a must-win game for the Astros going up against the Angels, who are much ahead of them. Everyone is much ahead of us in the division. And we pulled it off. We got the win. This was a combined effort of pitching and hitting, which is what you love. There was a couple of good defensive plays. So yeah, just to get right into it. First things first, Matt Vasgersian and Jeff Blum were in a broadcast together, which... I mean, for me, is a dream come true. I love Matt Vasgersian. I think he is one of the best commentators. He was the best commentator I felt going into the season, national broadcast-wise, before the Angels snatched him up. I'm amazed it took someone this long to get that guy. He is just a joy to listen to call games. So getting to have him and Jeff Blum, who I also just think is awesome in the booth, together to call a game was just really cool to me and just really made me excited. But that aside, on to the actual game. In the first, Javier struck out the side of the Angels, including a strikeout of Fletcher, which, striking out David Fletcher is a heck of an achievement because that guy just does not strike out at anything. I believe the 94th or 96th percentile in strikeout rate for his, I believe for really his career. Some StatCast has been tracked, but man, striking that guy out is a hard feat. Shohei Ohtani, also a very good hitter to strike out. Trout walked, which is a big surprise. He's Mike Trout. He tends to do that stuff. And then in the bottom half of the first, the Astros would get a little bit of 2-out lightning. Bregman and Jordan would single. Yuli would walk, and then Tucker would strike out with the bases loaded. And man, I love Tucker. I know that he is getting very unlucky. There was an out in the 8th inning, I think, where it was a diving catch by the infielder, sliding diving catch to get it, and I know it would have just been a foul ball, so it wasn't necessarily a hit, but man, that guy just cannot get lucky for anything. And he would strike out. And this is starting to get a little old, just the Astros not being able to do much with the bases loaded. We would do something in the next inning with the bases loaded. But that happens in the first. In the second, Javier, again, would strike out the side. All 6 strikeouts for the first 6 were all swings and misses, which is quite an achievement for Christian Javier. Bottom half of the second, the Astros would get on the board. They would get 3 runs, actually. The first one was Diaz double, or this was to get them hit on. Diaz doubles, and as a guy, that slide into second looked incredibly painful. I don't want to imagine what you feel after that. But he would get to second. Straw would then triple on a ball that really, by all rights, should have been a double, but Straw is a speedy boy, so he got over to third. Correa would then single past Pujols, so that was cool. That made it 2-0. And then Yuli would eventually draw a bases-loaded walk to make it 3-0, and then Tucker, with a very unlucky line-out, ended the inning again. This one was just Tucker getting unlucky, which is what he does pretty much every time he goes up to the plate, It's unreal for Kyle Tucker. It really is. In the third, another pair of strikeouts for Christian Javier. This was the second time striking out David Fletcher, which is just... that's a bigger achievement than striking the first 8 batters out. Well, the first 8 outs being strikeouts. That's a bigger achievement, striking out David Fletcher twice in a game. The guy is, I've said it a lot, he is absurd. And in the bottom half of the third, Maldonado would double, Correa would fight one off for a little single that would score Maldonado, and then Brantley would double to move the runner over to third, and Bregman would single to score 2 and make it 6-0 after 3 innings. So already the Astros had more run production than pretty much the last 2 series combined, it felt like. Did we actually get more runs than we did? Yeah, because it was 2 against Seattle, 1 against Seattle, 2 against Seattle, and then Yeah, pretty much. We pretty much had more runs in this game than the past 5. That's wow. That's a depressing thing that just came to me as I am making this video currently live. That's wow. That is sad. In the 4th, Trout would get hit by a pitch up on the elbow, and golly, it looked rough. Mike Trout is a tough player. He does not like to leave games like this. So the fact that he left the game and was lingering, he stayed in for a few more innings, but boy, you could tell he wasn't totally comfortable. He got down to first, like he took it like a champ, but man, you hate to see a guy of Mike Trout's caliber leave a game because A, if you're the Angels, that is just such a big hitter to your lineup, and as a fan of baseball, knowing what talent he just brings to the sport is just a joy, but also the marketability is just, you hate to see a guy like that go out of the lineup for any amount of time. So hopefully it's just a night thing. I believe they said it was an elbow contusion, so it should be nothing serious. The good thing is, obviously, since he was able to stay in the game, it isn't hopefully anything long-term. Hopefully just a little night, ringing on that right elbow. There was like 5 people hitting the elbow tonight. Bregman and then a few Angels. And I don't think anything was intentional, obviously. I don't think the Astros or Angels have any real disliking for each other. There was, a lot of times where they would sort of have fun and talk to each other on the base path. Trout specifically had some conversations with Bregman and Correa, which is nice to see, given that I was terrified that everyone would just not talk to the Astros and treat them like the rejects at school. Anyway, so through the 4th inning, Mr. Christian Javier had 9 strikeouts and 20 swings and misses, which is just absurd. Whatever they taught him during the alternate training campsite seems to have worked because, man, he came into this game and he dominated. The bottom half of the 4th, Tucker would single. He would then steal second. Diaz would then tap one to the infielder. But Tucker, who was just zooming, got over to third. He was safe. And then a fielder's choice would score Tucker to make it 7-0. In the 5th, Bregman would single. That would score Correa. And in the 5th inning, I did want to mention this. This would just be the last inning of work for Christian Javier. It wasn't anything bad. The pitch count got to him. He had a super high pitch count through the 5 innings. I think it was like 98 through his night, but a very effective night for Christian Javier. And then in the 6th, this is the conflict, right? Albert Pujols homered on a ball. Now, I don't think this was a home run. I don't. I think it was a foul ball. I don't think it hit the foul pole. Maybe it did, but I don't think you can say for sure that it hit the foul pole. And this sort of brings me to an issue of instant replay in all of sports, which is the call on the field. If the call on the field is being brought into question, then you should completely forget the call on the field. Like, if this is a court case, if one if one witness has motives or the entire witness of the event called into question, then you want to throw that out and go off of everything else. So I've always found it sort of irrelevant that basically the deciding factor in a tiebreaker is the person on the field whose call is being called into question. I think it was really, Steve Dangle who really started talking about this issue in hockey, and I find it sort of happening in every sport a lot more. I don't think this was a home run. And I know you can say, but can you conclusively say it wasn't? And I would say, what part of you can conclusively say it was? I don't think this was a home run. I thought it should not have been. Now, here's the thing. It's 8-0 at this point. So I'm not going to complain or cry wolf or anything because, again, this is a blowout game at this moment. So 8-2, 8-0, it doesn't really matter because, again, and this would be the last run scored in the game. So it wasn't a deciding factor, but there are a lot of games in baseball and football and hockey that are decided by these calls that basically only stand because, well, you can't 100% overturn it. There might be 70% to 30%, but you can't do it conclusively. And I think that thinking is sort of outdated and irrelevant, really, to the current state of sports with instant replay being the way it is. And I just sort of wanted to throw my hat in the ring on that discussion, and then, because that was a perfect example to bring it up with, I thought it was a foul ball. And, I like Albert Pujols, so if anyone was going to get lucky with one, I'm happy it was him, especially since he's trying to climb that all-time home runs list. But I don't think that was a home run, if I'm being completely honest with you. In the 7th, Brantley, he stole second, right? But he was called out. And the reason they said is because Bregman leaned over the plate too much after he swung out. And that's just what Bregman does every time he strikes out. Like that, I know you might say, like, but he was leaning over the plate. And I would just say, I don't think it was any more than usual. Like, that's just how Bregman is when he strikes out. If it's a pitch down in a way that sort of takes him off his feet, he just sort of, kind of stutters or falls into the strike zone and into the plate. So I personally didn't think that should have been anything. It didn't really inhibit the throw. Like, it was still a perfect throw. It was just late because Brantley got a great jump. So I don't know how that wasn't. If you really want to say, no, he affected it, I would just move the runner back to first. I don't get how that was called an out, due to interference by Bregman. I really didn't get that. In the 8th, there was a great diving catch by Miles Straw. And in the 9th, I don't totally love the decision, but Ryan Pressly was brought in for the Astros in the 9th, which I understand that he hasn't pitched since last Saturday. Like, I get that. On that note, however, this is going to be a very important series that the Astros have to win. Like, we have to get at least 3 of them in the series because we have a hard schedule coming up. So I'd rather put in another reliever that, hasn't gone in a few days and maybe wait for Pressly maybe in case you have to use him back-to-back nights, because if tomorrow nights is a super close game that you'd want to use him, and same goes Saturday, you're only going to be able to use him for one of those games because you don't want to use the same relief pitcher, especially the closer who's trying to just throw every ounce that he's got in the tank 3 nights in a row. So I wasn't a fan of that choice. Now, it worked out well. Brian Pressly was fantastic, only allowed 1 hit in his little inning and got a pair of strikeouts. But I wasn't crazy about that. I would have been fine leaving in the bullpen and bringing somebody else out. But it didn't really matter. He got out of it perfectly fine, only the 1 hit, like I said. And that was it for the game. An 8-2 victory for the Astros. A nice win, especially after this little skid they've been on. 1-9 over the last 10. I don't know if I've mentioned that. So on to the pitching lines before I get to final thoughts. Christian Javier had 5 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. Brian Abreu had 1 1/3, 2 runs, which again I don't think should have been. 2 hits, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. Brooks Raley came in for 1 inning. Brooks Raley came in for 1 inning. No hits, no runs, no walks, no strikeouts. Ryan. Joe Smith came in for 2/3, and he didn't totally blow up, so that was a positive. 0.2 innings, or 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. And then Ryan Pressly came in for the 9th, 1 inning of work, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. So the final thoughts for the game. The top part of the lineup, right? The top 3 did a lot of heavy lifting tonight. 5 of the RBIs were by Correa and Bregman. And then Brantley also had a couple of times on base. He was 2 for 5, so that was pretty good. Correa was fantastic in the leadoff spot, 2 for 5 as well, 3 runs and 2 RBIs. Bregman was 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. And with how good the top 3 were tonight, I'm more than okay going into the next few games, like going into when Altuve gets back. I might look into doing Correa batting leadoff, Altuve batting second, Brantley batting third, and Bregman in cleanup. I think that's something to try. At least try it for a game or 2, right? Because that could be something. Or maybe switch Altuve and Brantley. Or Altuve and Correa. But having Correa at the top of the lineup seemed to work. The offense was rolling tonight. Like I said, Correa had 2 RBIs, 3 runs, and was 2 for 5. So I'm cool with that. On the lineup in general, every single player, except for one, had a hit tonight. The one that didn't was Yuli Gurriel. And he had a pair of walks, one of which was a bases-loaded RBI walk. So that's also not too bad of a night for Yuli Gurriel. For the pitching that I wanted to mention, Christian Javier had one of the best games of his career, 5 innings of shutout baseball with 9 strikeouts, 8 of them coming in the first 8 batters, or 8 outs of the game. So he was just fantastic. And the only reason he didn't keep rolling through this game was the very high pitch count through 5 innings. But it was nice to see him really get stretched out for the first time in a while. Joe Smith didn't give up any runs. Small victories, man. You got to take them where you can find them. So 2/3 of an inning, no runs. You gave up 2 walks, but no runs. Small victories, people. Let me have them. And then Ryan Pressly is seemingly the Ryan Pressly of old. The 2019 Ryan Pressly. That lockdown pitcher that would come in and shut down an offense. Which is exactly what I was hoping for this season. He looks to be taking the closer role, and again, he hasn't pitched in many high leverage situations, but the high leverage situation that he did come in for against the Mariners, he did wonderful in. So this is very, very encouraging to see Ryan Pressly rolling for the Astros again, because he has such good stuff, and if he can be pitch in lockdown, this is going to be huge for the bullpen in general. If we can have Pressly be an actual closer, which he just wasn't really able to do last year during the regular season. And that's really all I have to say for the game. Again, I loved Matt Vasgersian and Jeff Blum calling the game. I wanted to mention that. And yeah, this was a pretty good game for the Astros. I have no real complaints. The defense was great, the offense was great, and the pitching was fantastic. Greinke will be on the mound tomorrow for the Astros. 8:10 is first pitch. Hopefully we can get 2 in a row, which is the first time since opening weekend. That is a sad thing to say. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And as always, go Astros.